Ready for our next panel is Are You Okay? YouTube has been a place for people to express themselves and content. Creators and viewers who live with mental illness connect and share their stories and learn from each other. So how has that changed in the last couple of years? So if you have questions like that, get your questions together. But right now, I would like you to welcome the entire panel for Are You Okay? Please give them a big round of applause.
So like he said, we're here to talk about, mental health, because 1 in 4 are affected globally. Did you know?
Yeah.
Now you know.
I do. The more you know.
Yeah.
1 in 4.
That's a lot.
I know.
Are these the mic cubes?
Those are the mic
cubes.
Is that a fidget cube? What is?
Oh. It's from the future.
Phone calls.
So first, in case any of you don't know who each of us are, let's introduce ourselves. Do you want to start?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, I'm Joey Kidney, and I talk. Hey! I talk about self-help and advice on my channel, and that's basically it. So that's all I am.
Hi, I'm Olivia Marie. I talk about travel vlogs as well as mental health on my channel.
My name's Elena. I do mental health stuff, sexuality stuff. I'm also a certified mindful self-compassion teacher, so I try to incorporate that a lot into my videos. So I'm in the right place, I think.
Yes, you are.
My name is Victor Davis. I make YouTube videos that are just kind of funny, and I just suffer from mental health in real life.
I'm Sam Fazz. I make fashion videos, advice videos, and kind of just whatever I want.
I'm Ryan Abe. I make videos about things that annoy me and just awful trends on social media.
And I am Katie Morton. I'm a licensed therapist, and I have a mental health educational channel on YouTube. So that's what I do. I think I'm in the right place.
I think you're in the right place, yeah.
So I want to start off the panel. I always like to open it with this, is what prompted you to start talking about mental health? Because not everybody does online.
Do we want to go down a line, or do we just want to start talking?
You can popcorn it.
I started making videos because I was not in the best state of mind. I joined YouTube I started daily vlogging at 15 because I was very depressed. That's when my depression first set in, and I would watch daily vloggers like CTFXC as like an idealistic view of a happy life and all that. And I wanted to incorporate that into my life. Didn't work, but that's why it happened. And then as I got older, I realized that trying to suppress it and just pretend like things were idealistic and happy and fine was not the way to go about it. So I was like, hey, here's the real shit, yo. Are we around? Can we swear on this?
You can on my channel, so go.
Okay, cool. So restricted mode is off in here.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think YouTube was this thing where I thought I had to be like the perfect person. Basically, my thing was like, well, I do comedy, so I don't want to make people feel like I'm not okay because I want to make them laugh. And I guess I got a lot of pressure to just always be funny until one day I realized, like, well, I'm just hurting myself and my channel and not being as open as I am. And then these people are coming to me with their problems, and I'm not even being myself to them. So I decided to just start actually opening up about my issues, and it helped a lot just to see that everybody had a lot of the same issues that I did.
I was the same as Ryan. I kind of started my channel because I didn't like how I felt in real life or how I thought people viewed me in real life, so I thought I could make YouTube a place and kind of create an image where people would like me for somebody that I wasn't even really being. And then I got to a point where I was like, this is tiring, and there's so many people that come to me with their issues, and I can relate to them. So if we can talk to each other and be there for each other, why not?
Yeah, I found myself in a situation where it was early days of YouTube, and I was getting invited to these things. They just started, like 7, 8, 9 and such, and I was dealing with agoraphobia, and I couldn't leave my house. I wanted to meet all of you, but I couldn't leave. So it was just like the next kind of step was, do you want to go outside now and experience YouTube in the real world? Which, yeah.
And I started YouTube because when I found YouTube as a platform, I grew up in a really small town, so I was struggling with anxiety, panic attacks, my sexuality, and I didn't know anybody who was like me in any of those aspects. I didn't know anybody who had anxiety. And so being able to go online and see that other people were going through these same things is one of the things that inspired me to start my channel in the first place. And then once I kind of understood what's happening, felt more comfortable in my own skin, then I started sharing my story too.
Oh, I guess, okay. So everyone kind of said, like, everyone's kind of similar with, you know, they had some troubles in their life and they went to YouTube. For me, a lot of people came to me in school and they asked me for help, and I was like, oh, whoa, okay. And they thought they were all, like, messed up, and I'm like, well, I messed up too, I guess. So I posted it. That was when people were holding up those cards, being like, hi, my name is this, and I suffer from this, and all the cards were happening. And I couldn't really relate to that because I felt like I needed to say it. So my first video, like most, is taken down off my channel because I don't want people to see the fetus me. But it's me being like, hey, I'm Joey, I'm this, I'm a little messed up, but that's okay. And I was completely okay with it. I didn't talk as if it was something that was bad or anything like that. And that's how I got started. Cool.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing about online communities. I don't know if any of you kind of noticed, but I know that I've felt it as a creator in the mental health space. It's like changed the way we talk about mental health. I remember when I first started my channel like 5.5 years ago, when I would like friend or follow someone on Twitter, they'd be like, who are you? Why are you following me? This is my secret account or something. And I was like, huh. So I would get those, totally. And so I think now, I mean, I know now it's changed, at least in my perspective. Do you guys feel that the online community has changed like the way we talk about mental health or like the stigma?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a great example is the fact that, like, we did a panel last year for this, and then we scheduled and made a video, like, 2 weeks later because we had more to say, because we realized that there was a conversation that could be had.
And then we made the video again because I didn't record it all the way.
That is true. We did shoot it twice.
It was good. I got to see Mitchell twice.
But, I mean, though, that is exactly what you wanted to happen. It opened up that conversation for me and you, and just as two people. That had nothing to do with being creators. It was just like, oh, you know what I'm talking about. That's so awesome. I'm not alone. And yeah, I think that.
I'm not alone. That's the message.
I think it's changed more also in the way, because Mitchell, I remember your video talking about OCD and like your experience with it was one of the first videos I saw that didn't deal with the more common like anxiety or depression, and while those are also valid things, I think the conversation about other mental health illnesses has risen up because a couple years ago, nobody talked about eating disorders. Nobody talked about OCD. Nobody talked about those things. And I see a rise in that, and I think it's important that we talk about things that are not just anxiety and depression, because those may be factors of another thing.
None of it's taboo, and I think that's the thing that we need to get over, is the fact that people think that we are talking about something that's invisible, that's not there, that you can't prove, so people feel uncomfortable. And the thing is there isn't any. If anything, it should open the conversation and make you want to ask more questions, because you literally have no idea what's going on in someone else's head. There's just no way of knowing. You can scan it all you want and things light up, but it's just all about how the person uses it. And I think that's the big thing, too, is we just need to continue it open and make it so that it's not this scary thing. I feel like we're all so afraid to be like, I feel sick. It's like, no, I feel sick. You should be able to say it and, you know, actually hear someone say something back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that that's the cool thing about the digital space is you can create whatever content you want, and then the comments, people are like, me too. And they're reminded.
And you can learn, too. Like, you can actually, like, say what you think is going on, and then someone's like, you know, I did the same. It's a little different for me, and you find out that there's all these variations. And, I mean, just from YouTube alone, I've found so many ways to deal with what I deal with, and it was totally different from the beginning. Like, I had no idea about all these breathing exercises and such like that. Like, it was all invisible to me, and no one was talking about it.
Do you think that's a fine line, though? Like, asking questions now, like the mother.
Go for it.
But do you not think that that's a fine line between people almost self-diagnosing themselves into a mental illness, when we have this fine line of expressing ourselves and saying, I deal with this thing, and then someone saying, I experienced 2 of those 3, I am now this thing, and then they develop themselves into an
Can I
an
jump in?
illness.
I have a lot of thoughts about this. I made a video about self-diagnosis because there are pros and cons. The pro being, and I think the most important thing for people to hear, is that they're not alone. I feel that way too. I experienced 2 or 3 of those things. And I think that is so validating and so normalizing that it's positive with regard to that. But then I think what I would encourage each and every one of you who have done that, the next step is then I should reach out and get help, because that's what people on this panel have done or have considered. And I think that's the next step that's really important, because then you come and see someone like me and I say, oh, well, yeah, it's kind of like that, but what about this? Or, and we can talk about it and make sure that it's actually what's going on with you. I don't think there's anything wrong with listening to people's stories and saying, yeah, me too, because that makes us feel less alone. We're like, wow, I thought I was so weird, and it turns out I'm just a normal person. So that's the next step, is getting help.
Yeah, if you're going to self-diagnose or try to look into what's going on, just don't stay in your own contained bubble. Basically, as soon as you figure out those few things, reach out and then ask questions. Because, like if you do stay in there, you're just going to end up, it's just like a placebo effect. Eventually, it's like, I am crazy. I am crazy. I've been thinking about it so long.
I have all these things. Yeah.
I might not be alive. It's like...
That's like WebMD when you just wait for cancer to pop up on the screen. You're like, oh, shit.
Oh, man. I grew a hair right here. I got cancer.
I also think it's important to remember that only you can help yourself and go seek help. No YouTuber or article online is going to help you. So if you relate to something and you think, oh, I might have this or that, it's very important that you go out and you actually seek help for it, because none of us up here, through our videos or anything. Yeah.
Except Katie.
Yeah, except for you. But
yeah, everybody go to Katie at the end. I'm not legally allowed.
Katie Moore, you can find me.
But what might work for me might not work for you, or you, or you, and any of you here. So it's important that you actually go and seek help.
I think it's important to acknowledge that's a super privileged answer, by the way, because many of us will not have health care for these types of things
included.
Soon. But
you
Canadians,
also,
sorry.
You Canadians.
No, you
You're
can.
great
But you can,
lives.
also,
But you can still find
you
it
can
in
seek
different
help
ways.
from a friend, a parent, a teacher. Seeking help professionally is super important. But if that's not available to you, there are
someone you're comfortable with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just important to talk to another human being who can talk back.
At the very least, school. I always found that school counselor. I mean, that's their job.
Yeah.
They're a soundboard, and they're right there. And I feel like that's the first place that you can go if you really can't go anywhere else, or a family member. I feel like
I was homeschooled, so my counselor was my parent.
Yeah.
And I was very scared to go to my parents and be like,
What was that like?
It was interesting. No, I'm very happy that I was homeschooled because I got to sleep in late and, that kind of fun stuff. But when I felt for a while like I couldn't go to my parents, that they would be like, you have no reason to feel the way you're feeling. When you've never talked about it to other people, it's kind of really scary because you don't know how they're going to react. So I was really nervous to talk to my parents because I didn't want them to kind of shove it under the rug, like this was something serious. And I had never talked to my parents about mental illness or anything before. And then when I went to them finally and talked to them, I had found out my parents were both on depression and anxiety medication. And I was like so relieved because I was like, they get it. And I understand that not everybody has that experience. But for me personally, it was such a huge weight lifted off of my shoulders because I was like, they understand.
I think the big thing that I've seen is there's this generational gap. People that are in their teens and 20s definitely understand it more now. But I see a lot of people that, they could go to their parents and say, well, I have a fever. And they'll say, well, you need to go to the doctor right now. But if they say, well, I'm having suicidal thoughts, they'll say, well, then stop. And that's the problem. If you have a fever, you're going to the doctor. But if you feel mentally messed up, then you're fine. And I think that's the issue, is trying to break that generational gap of people that are over 40 and above to really understand that it's not something that you should take lightly. And when someone goes to you for that, that's a big step. And a lot of parents, I think, don't realize how big that step is and how important that is for that person.
Yeah, I totally agree with that completely. And I think something that I want you all to be aware of is that if where there's a will, there's a way. And I always tell my viewers, I'm like, advocate for yourself. Speak up, because even though health insurance can totally take a shit, because let's be honest, it already has.
Okay, you're wrong. Okay,
it's been terrible. Like, my copays are through the roof. So anyways, I totally understand where you're at. And like, regardless of what happens, there are still free clinics that are not federally funded that will be there. There are still school counselors. There are still people that we can reach out to. And if you need the help and if you're feeling bad, please speak up. You're not alone. People are there to help. You know, and even therapists, just FYI, and then I'll get off my soapbox of getting help. You can always ask them to work on a sliding scale. I do. You know, ask them. I didn't get into what I do to make like $1 million. I got into what I do to help people. So, you know, tap into that.
Cool.
And then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to have them answer one more question, but then we're going to open it up to questions. So start thinking of your questions.
I was so ready to throw
Were
the
you
cubes.
ready?
Launch
I mean,
the
we can go
orbs.
into the cubes.
Go.
We can,
Like, turn these cubes on, buddy.
we can cube it right now.
I want it. Can I have a cube?
You toss them out.
Microphones.
We get to throw them out to you. It's like
really?
It's like we're at a big party.
I'm
okay.
sorry,
Well, if anybody has any questions already, since they're super stoked, do you want to? Who?
I don't know.
Mitchell, toss. We'll toss it out.
It's not on.
They'll turn it on.
Really look crazy.
I have the faith in the.
A gentle toss.
You can toss it. Next.
Wow, he caught one-handed. That was caught by. Wow.
I caught it in my elbow.
She
Is it on?
caught that like. No,
Can we turn the cubes on?
What's wrong?
Oh,
Are
it
they
is
on?
on.
Who controls the cubes?
Cube person.
Someone.
Cubert.
Cue the cubes.
Okay, this is like a really,
Oh,
I don't
it
know
works.
like what kind of questions you want, but this is like a really out there question. But I feel like one of the things is like you can see people, like that's a mental illness, like where you see things and like where you swear something is there. Like, could that in any way be related to like believing in God or something and like demons and stuff?
Do you mean like if we see somebody who's ill that's like seeing things that aren't there? Or,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like schizophrenia would be a good example. Is it an example of like demons if you're like religious?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an interesting question, and it's a good one because I was just at this conference with some people who had schizophrenia. And one of the girls there said that she didn't get treatment for 1.5 years after her first episode because her parents thought that she was possessed. And some people do still think that way. Luckily, people are educating themselves and more aware of what mental illness can look like. I know that it's not because of that, because we can actually see it in the brain. And people who have schizophrenia and who see things that aren't there or hear things that aren't there, it really just means that your body is producing a lot more dopamine, which is like a feel-good thing, but it also causes us to like see things that aren't there. It's like almost we get too much. So instead of seeing just the regular people, we're like, oh, and there's all this other stuff going on.
That's also a side effect of some mental illness like drugs, so like Prozac, like SSRIs, like Prozac and things. So if you start feeling that way, make sure you tell your doctor that's a side effect.
I will say though, if that person while they're doing it is walking on water, I would say listen to them.
Fair point.
I'm saying listen to
Take their advice.
I mean,
If they're turning water into wine, I mean,
if they're like, hey,
but yeah, that's a fair question.
Can I touch on this? So, I actually have a sleep disorder. It's called hypnagogic hallucinations, where I do actually wake up in the middle of the night and I hallucinate.
that's got to what?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm not in your room. Damn.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. But interestingly, like to speak exactly to your point, this has been happening to me since I was in junior high. And like I mentioned, I'm from a very small town, a very small religious town. And these hallucinations never really had a religious theme to them until I started telling people, and they started telling me that I was probably possessed and needed an exorcism. And it was after that suggestion was put into my head, then suddenly the hallucinations were demonic. They had this religious theme. So I really think it's your mind, and if maybe you're coming from a religious background, or this person who's experiencing this is coming from a religious background, that's already in their mind, and so that's what, it's like you dream about what happened during the day.
Yeah. And I think people try to make sense of what they don't understand, and so that's why it's important that we have panels like this and we talk about it, because we know that it doesn't come from, demons.
And I mean,
it comes from dopamine.
that falls also into the world of just like communication and the internet, and why it's so important to, if you're feeling something, put it out there and don't just keep it in that small town so that everybody eventually writes a book about you. You know what I mean? Like, you let everyone know.
I also grew up in a very religious town, in a household that's
We
very
need to
religious.
talk.
Yes, we do. And one of the things, like you were saying, when you started telling people, just even if you're saying, you know, I'm depressed, I have anxiety, a lot of times you just need to pray.
You need
to pray about it. And you know what? That can work for you, but that's not the cure either. You know, you can use that in whichever way you want to. If you don't believe in anything or you believe in something else, that's fine. But there's a point where you have to realize that's your mental health. That has nothing to do with religion. And you need to be able to realize, like, what other people are saying, or, you know, just pray, just this. That's not your answer, you know?
Agreed. Next question. Do we want to toss? We're going to toss it
that way.
You want to catch it? Just going to toss it there.
You know I do.
It's okay. It's foam. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, that's why we throw them, because we can.
Okay, next question. Who's got the cube? Go for it.
I just like.
It's on.
I just kind of wanted to know, like when you like do like these like really personal videos about like how you're feeling, do you ever like what's the word like think twice about like actually putting them up?
Yes.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, think 3 times. Think 4 times.
Yeah, because I mean, just like we've all been saying, I mean, the first time you feel something new, you're like, I'm crazy. Yeah. And in this kind of world that we're in, we kind of fall into that where it's just like, do I say that? Do I say that out loud?
Honestly, though, like, I am crazy. Yeah. Like, I am.
Yeah, no, I've come to terms, and I think that's the
right?
thing. Is it's just like, yeah, I feel things that other people don't feel, and that's okay. That's fine.
I've never had it where I thought twice about the video, though, because which is weird.
I want your confidence, Joe.
I know, I'm just like, tell me how.
You should. I'm in my room having a panic attack, like eating pretzels, like looking at my editing screen. You're just post.
Yeah.
I just think like this is my mindset. I'm dying, so I'm just gonna. Why not share it with people because they may be going through that, and even though it's crazy and maybe I shouldn't put it out there, it could help somebody.
I think with me, I'm always
that's it.
I'm more afraid of.
Kudos to you. I wish I could do that.
I'm always more afraid of what people are going to say in return in the comments because I'm always afraid, like, what if they are like, oh, man, whatever you have is super. I'm sorry to hear that. And I'm always afraid of other people's opinions. But 99% of the time when you put it out there, you're going to get an unbelievable amount of support and people that have the same thing. And then it becomes really comforting. And then it becomes something that you kind of want to do because it's almost like your own YouTube therapy session at that point.
Yeah, excuse me.
Sorry, I was speaking over you.
I was going to say, even though I've second guessed multiple times, I've never had a bad experience once it's been up. Once it's been up, it's actually more of it's a relief. Yeah. It's almost just like, okay.
Ripping the Band-Aid off.
Yeah, ripping the Band-Aid off is the best way to put it. Yeah, because you really do. The first few comments are just like, oh my gosh, me too. And I'm just like,
oh, thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah.
I've had a lot of negative.
I was going to say, I get a lot of know-it-alls. In my, who are you to, like, if I do an advice video and I give some advice, I never am, like, acting like a medical professional or saying anything. I'm just, somebody asks me and I'll tell you how I've dealt with it. And then you have, like, crazy people with no, like, pictures on their YouTube page, like, what do you think you're saying or doing? And I think you just have to kind of ignore it, you know?
I have more personal attacks.
Oh, really?
More of a, like my fear, I think, also comes across is that, because I did just upload a video about it, is that I'm scared that personal people will see it, like my family or future boyfriends will see it, and they'll be like, oh, yikes. And, like, I think that comes across in previous videos. And, like, so my comments are like, you're gonna die alone. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Thanks for telling me that. It's not like I already stressed about that. And it's always, like, 30-year-old men who feel the need to, like, mansplain depression to me. And I'm like, that's cool, thanks. And I get, like, nice comments, but, like, it's always those few that are like, you're fine. You're just doing it for the views.
Oh, yeah.
Or like, you just need to pray. Or like,
yeah, exactly. And my dad watches my YouTube videos. And in one of them I had talked about when I had suicidal thoughts. And he was like, I was in the car with him one time. We're going to Dunkin' Donuts. And he was like, I never knew that, and I was kind of like embarrassed because I could never tell him that. And I could tell all these people on the internet, and then I'm sitting in a car with him, and I'm like, oh shit, you know? I was past that, but still it's like an awkward conversation where there's, you know, when it's on a screen and you post it, you kind of feel free once it's up, and then you remember you have people in real life that watch it, and you're kind of like, oh my God.
It's real
it's
awkward.
And at least it was my dad, you know, if it was someone random, like, oh, I watched that, you know, sometimes you don't know how to react.
All the time. Am I even on?
Oh, now you are.
Hello. I think my main point to for just advice about it would be just make sure that you're okay having people in your life know. So if someone does watch it, because once you put something out, regardless of whether you take it down or not, it still lives somewhere, I'm sure.
It's always remaining on the internet.
Exactly. So just consider, you know, that if you're okay with people knowing, and then hit that public button and save it.
Yeah.
Or tell your dad, don't watch this video.
Yeah.
Parents don't listen; they still watch it anyway.
Cube it? Do we want to cube
let's
it?
do one more. Let's do another cube.
Somebody throw it.
Oh, I want to throw it.
Just scream. I have a mic.
Oh yeah. We got a dead battery.
There you go.
Number 5.
That's a good toss. Wow, that was a perfect throw. That landed right. I'm impressed.
Okay, so this question is towards all of the people on the panel who are on medication. It's
people what?
Oh, sorry. The people on the panel who are on medication for things. Because I know it's a very long process of finding out what is going to work for you. How do you not get discouraged?
Yeah. The way that just so that if you didn't hear, is just how not to get discouraged about the process of getting on medication. The medicine I am on, it took 3 years to get my body acclimated to it. It was crazy. And I think you just have to keep, at least for me, it was just kind of the long game, understanding that in the end, this is all for the better of me, and that I'm actually these are just the small steps that lead to that better field of grass. As I just kept trying to see it a little bit further out and not live in that moment of being like, my stomach hurts so bad. But also, I made a point to be very, very vocal about every side effect I felt because again, everybody's body's different and everyone's medicines are different, and if you're not open about it, honestly, I feel like that's how half of my friends they get turned off of medicine because the first pill didn't work, and I'm like, that never happens.
So rare.
So I know you said it's for people who are on medication. I actually stopped. Which is not good. I stopped cold turkey. I just didn't feel like I was myself, and I was very lucky. I was able to control my anxiety.
Did you say you did go cold turkey, or
I stopped cold turkey
with the help of an advisor or not?
No, it was totally not right. I should not have done it.
Okay.
Don't do that. Message.
Like I said, I'm crazy. But for me, it worked. It was me saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get better, and I'm going to do it for me. Now, if pills or medication work for you, that's awesome. For me personally, medication, I didn't see a result in it. So I went upon myself, and now I can control all my anxiety attacks. I know when they're happening. I know if this, I've had hair loss, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then it goes to the next thing. And I'm very fortunate that my brain is able to handle that. But yeah, no, I just stopped all my medication.
I quit as well, but I was under the help of an advisor within a hospital. Because after 4.5 years and continuously upping my Prozac, it was making me worse, and I ended up, I now feel much better without it. What will the future hold? Who knows? But I still have anxiety medication that is probably a placebo, but it helps. So it's all about how your body responds to it. And the great thing about depression pills is, especially if it's a serotonin inhibitor, you don't know how to measure that. So you just have to keep trying and see if it works and if you need more or less. And that's a real fun process. It's not, I'm lying. I'm so sorry.
I have some thoughts about what Joey said. I think if you know your triggers, maybe that helps. Sometimes, I'm not a doctor, but sometimes it's just a chemical imbalance and you need your medication. And I think it's important to go to a therapist and talk and figure out. This is something I've never talked about online yet, but I recently found out that I don't even know how to say the name for it. Maybe you know. I have like a crippling fear of vomit.
You have a metaphobia?
Yeah, like crippling fear of vomit.
You can look it up.
And I was like, what?
I said I have a video about it.
Oh, do you really? I need to watch it.
I take medicine for it.
Do you really? Well, I thought I was crazy. It started because I had a gluten intolerance, and I was feeling sick all the time, and then my brain just was like, I'm going to throw up at any given second. And then it just became a fear. And then I was like, I'm crazy, and I tweeted about it one time. I was like, why am I so scared of throwing up? And one of my friends replied, and she was like, oh, I can't even...
Metaphobia?
I have a metaphobia. And I started talking to her about it, and she was like, oh, you should see somebody about that. Like, it's a serious thing. And I've always been like, it's silly to say, because people are like, why are you afraid of throwing up?
Why are we afraid of spiders? Why are we afraid of the dark? I mean, phobias are phobias.
I mean, there are people who are afraid of, like, cheese. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, for me, I haven't felt like I needed to be on medication for it yet because I know what triggers it. If I have a stomach ache or whatever, I need to just, like, talk myself out of it. But there are things, like, when I deal with my depression and stuff where I know that it's not something I can just turn off, you know? And that's different for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, like, over the years, I feel like we've all kind of, like I said, found new little remedies that we can do that we don't have to use medicine for. Like I said, like breathing exercises and things of that nature that, like, over the years, you just mature and you just find out, like, oh, I can harness that. That was just kind of out of control when I was a kid. And now it's not as blurry and crazy anymore. It's a bit more, I understand what's going on in here. And I can definitely see, and that's what I was going to ask you. Do you think, like, getting older, it's getting easier to
100%.
Yeah,
I mean, when you're like, I was diagnosed with all these things when I was like 14. I didn't know anything at 14. Like, you're going through puberty, your whole body's changing, and let alone your brain, and all your mind's going crazy. So as I started getting older, I had to go on stage. I started doing events and everything like that. And anxiety, I was like, okay, well, I need to do this. I need to do that. And I just started to learn and learn and learn. It's like, practice makes perfect. I mean, it doesn't work for everyone. I'm not speaking for everyone, just speaking for myself here. But for me, that's getting older, doing more.
Yeah. I think it's really important to note that there's no shame in being on medication. So sometimes you just need it. And going through puberty, too, that's a big one. Like, I was on medication when my panic attacks started, and I continued medication for quite a long time. Until I started growing up, I started realizing my triggers, and I also discovered mindfulness and self-compassion, which were game changers in my life.
Is it a Disney movie? What's happening?
But yeah, I just want to say that whether you're on medication or you were able to get off medication, whatever, there's no shame in that. It really is physical. It really is a chemical imbalance or something like that. It's just like taking an ibuprofen for a fever. So.
For me, like, therapy was the biggest thing because I've always been my own worst enemy. I can make myself think the most ridiculous things and then believe them. And with hypochondria and things, like, I'm just, WebMD has to be blocked on every web thing around me or else I'm dying every day. And therapy really helped me just learn how to calm myself down because I didn't know how to, but someone else was able to show me how to calm myself down. And at first I was super weird about it, and he would say things like, imagine you're in a river, and I'd be like, I'm not in a river, I'm at home. But you have to just take yourself out of the mentality of I can't. And then once I actually started doing those exercises, I was like, my God, I'm in a river and I feel better and I'm going downstream and it worked. And and that with medication, again, now I'm going to walk on water and it'll be full circle. But just getting out of your comfort zone and really trying is so important. And therapy, I think, is so good for that because it forces you to get out of your comfort zone. You literally have to get out of it, and it takes a process. You're not going to go for one therapy session and feel great, but you're going to feel better every single time. I think that's super important.
My first therapy session, I wouldn't go in the room.
Yeah, I was terrified.
Couldn't do it.
Yep.
Literally, he came and met me in the parking lot because I was like, I can't come inside. I don't know why, but I'm going to die if I go in there. But it's like, but it was just, what was so great though is he was like, okay, yes, well then I guess we'll do it out here. And it's so accommodating. That's the thing too. And what you're saying about it being comfortable, that's another thing too that, like, I see so much is where it's this comfort in the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Where you're like, you know what though, I can handle it and I'm fine with it. And I've learned to just live like this. And it's like, you don't have to though. You don't have to. Like, that little bubble, easily popped, easily you can reach around, and there's like so much more. Because it is so easy to just be like, well, I figured it out. And I figured it out a long time ago. I just have to touch this knob 3 times and look in this corner and pray over there. Yeah. It's like, you don't have to.
We have 5 minutes, I saw, but I have like a quick note. Because families, especially because our audiences are young, and doing a quick little button and saying, I'm going to go to a therapist, not easy. When I tried to tell my dad's family that I needed help, I got Mexican prayers spewed at me. And I was like, thanks, guys. I don't know what you're saying because you wouldn't let me speak Spanish when I was a baby, but that's okay. But, like, that didn't help. And then when I ended up going to a mental hospital, it was like, Hispanics don't get mentally ill. We aren't suicidal. We're Mexicans. And I was like, okay.
I know we have 5 minutes left, but, like, how did you like overcome dealing with your family, maybe not accepting or believing you? Because I came from an opposite thing. My mom's a nurse. You know, they both deal with different mental illnesses, so it was very understanding. So when, like, my viewers come and ask me, like, my parents aren't understanding, I have a hard time, like, telling them what exactly to do because I haven't had that experience or know somebody that's been there. So what was your
That was
journey?
more of a question for people who have had a good experience. I didn't.
So what did you do
I
to
literally,
overcome that?
like...
Yeah, what did you do to seek help?
I literally, to be honest, tried to kill myself and ended up in a mental hospital, and then my whole family was like, oh, she is crazy. It's not just a, like, thing she's saying, which is not something you should ever get to the point to. And I think just trying to be like, hey, there's, like, things and, like, trying to show them and talk about them, but, like, help, because I don't know. Anybody?
If I was, I mean, I offer this advice to my viewers all the time, and I think the thing that usually gets across best, and obviously there are cultural differences, and some Asian and, like, Mexicans, I know I have a few clients who've struggled, but we can still get our point across, and I always encourage people to bullet point what you're struggling with. And I say bullet point because if we talk too long, we lose them. And then they start thinking other things, and they start trying to give you other advice, and we're really just trying to tell them what's going on. Try to keep it to, like, 5 or less bullet points. Like, I feel suicidal. Like, I don't want to be here. I feel hopeless. Like, keep it, boop, 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 move along, and then tell them what you need from them quickly. What I need from you is I need, you know, because I don't feel good. And then you wait. And I know that sounds terrible, but, like, we have to keep it short. We have to keep it sweet. We have to tell them what we need, and then we wait for them to give that to us. And it might take them time to digest it and figure out what the hell they want to do. Because for parents, the thing I hear the most from my parent viewers is it was hard for me to accept that something was wrong with my child. And so sometimes we have to give them time to go through that little process. But if they don't respond, do it again. And do it again. And do it again. And I know it sucks, but sometimes we have to, like, advocate. I mean, always. We're the only person that knows how we feel. We're the only person who can really advocate for ourselves. And that's how I find that we actually end up getting the help we need before we have to take dire measures because we feel hopeless because no one's helping us.
Right.
And I just can't say it enough. Like, do it again, keep it short. And parents like to know how they can help. That's why, like, tell them what you need. Yeah.
That's such good advice.
Sorry. For me, it was also steps. Like, I still tell my mom stuff. Like, I will still tell her, like, hey, I have trouble with this, or I need help with this. You don't have to do it all at once. It's my thing. Like, when I first told my parents that I was, like, feeling down, I came from, like, I was a hockey player. You know, like, hockey players are supposed to be rough and tough. So me telling my parents that, I was terrified. And I just told them one step at a time. I wasn't like, okay, this is everything I have wrong, I think I have wrong with me. Now, let's go fix it. I just did, hey, I get nervous when I have to go on stage. Like, I'm going to throw up or whatever like that. So I just took it step, and I still tell my parents stuff. Yeah. Always.
It's also a learning experience for your parents as well. Another family member of mine, a sibling of mine, was also dealing with some stuff of her own. And my dad had came to me and was like, I don't understand. You know, they might have dealt with me and dealt with their own things, but it's different for every single person. And your parents have to learn and adjust as well. And I think after a while, they kind of figure you out a little bit more too. They might have been, like, blind to what you were feeling at first, but now my mom will pick up, like, all right, you haven't wanted to leave the house in 2 weeks. Like, you need to get up, take a shower, you know, take it one step at a time.
Self-care. She's like,
and kind of be like, what's going on?
Yeah,
and then you can sit and cry about it to your mom, and then, you know, you keep them in the know. But eventually, I think, once they kind of accept it and start learning about it, whatever you're dealing with, then you kind of have that support system that you might have not always thought you were going to have.
And so I think the whole message I want you all to hear is that you're not alone, and it's okay to reach out. It's okay to speak up. You can advocate for yourself because there is help available. There are tons of people like me who want to listen to you and help give you tools to get you in that river so that you feel better. So yeah, reach out and check everybody out. Check out our channels. Thank you guys for being on the panel. And can you toss the cubes back in, please? Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the playlist. Woo, woo, woo.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Cool, got our cubes.
Yay.